your guide to the truth. TheNewAmericanMedia.com.
Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Agree to Disagree here on the TNAM radio network here at TheNewAmericanMedia.com. My name's Brian Engelman and I'm your host, as I have been for the past 5.5 years. So check out some of the archived shows. Our guest today, Blake Walley. You'll know him. He's been on radio shows and out at Bundy Ranch and out in Cleveland for the RNC, out in Philly for the DNC. We're going to bring him in to talk about the election a little bit. Make sure you follow him on Twitter. He's at Eccentric99. I want you to link up with us here at The New American Media as well. Our homepage, The New American Media, is where you click play to listen to this show live. On the right-hand side, it says TNAM Radio. You click it, you listen. Underneath that is our Facebook feed, or you can search facebook.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. On Twitter, we're at American_media_. Definitely need to subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. So many videos up there. Listen, watch, check them out, leave your comments, continue the conversation. And then instagram.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. You want to make sure you're linked up with that as well. All right, well, we are into the Donald Trump presidency. Well, the Donald Trump-elect presidency. President-elect Donald Trump. Who would have thought this, huh? I mean, I'm thrilled that the Hillary crime family is no longer in office. Gotta tell you. That makes me very happy. I do have reservations about Donald Trump. I think anybody should have reservations about any air quote leader. I like the libertarian philosophy of, do your thing and people better leave you alone if you're not harming other people. If you're not causing a problem, if you're not making a mess, if you're not damaging property, if you're not, just kind of leave me alone. So I think anybody should be worried about any sort of leader that's supposed to, air quote, run a country. What does that even mean? I mean, I get it. They make all the important decisions, and they push for policy and Supreme... Look, I'm not saying I don't understand how government works. I obviously do, but just the concept of having a leader, it's very interesting. So, my point that I'm getting at is I think everybody should be rooting for a president, a leader to do well and steer the country into a good place. And I think everybody should be paying attention to what the leaders are doing. And if they're out of line, if they're doing stuff that doesn't agree with you, you should speak out. You should call attention to it. So let's bring in Blake Walley to the program. Tried to get him last week. Had a little bit of
Hello.
Good morning, Blake. How are you, sir?
Fantastic. How are you, Brian?
Living the dream. I was just saying that we tried to get you in last week, but I didn't finish my thought. But hey, scheduling. What an incredible ride the past 2 weeks has been, Blake. We haven't talked with you since the election, so I got to get your thoughts. Let me walk you back a little bit. You had called this election perhaps the most important election in American history, and different things along those same lines. What was on the line for this election? Why was it so important to you that, I don't know, whether it's, did you think it was more that Hillary should be kept out of office or that Donald Trump should be in office? Why was it so important to you?
Well, I think I saw more of as Hillary as being a danger and very bad and leading to the possibility of World War III. In fact, I think it was very much on the table, and that was the end of America as we know it. And so I wouldn't say that I'm so much, blindly pro-Trump or anything, but I was a Rand Paul guy at first, but I definitely got on board with Donald Trump. I think he's a good guy, and I appreciate him for stepping up and rising to that challenge. He's not the perfect guy. He knows it, but he's somebody that could you know do it, get the job done, and actually take on the Bushes and the Clintons and change Washington.
Now,
Drain the swamp, as he says.
right. Well, and
The anti-establishment. First and foremost, I am anti-establishment. He is a true candidate for that anti-establishment, and yeah, it was an easy pick.
well, okay. Well, why is being anti-establishment such an important issue for you?
Oh, because things are way too corrupt as they are, or whether it's internal policies, foreign policy. The whole thing's been a disaster for a long time, but especially the last 16 years. We can't afford to have another establishment candidate, and we're just going to take us off the cliff, and it's going to become an oligarchy, and we have no future. So I did everything I could, fight against that, and I'm glad Donald Trump came along and did something, because if he hadn't, we would have been stuck with establishment candidates on the right. We could have had a hope that Rand Paul would have won, but we can't. We have no way of knowing what would have happened had Donald Trump not been in the race. So he was the guy for the job, and he took care of business. The rest is history.
Now, leading up to the election, did you have a sense? Walk me through. I mean, you have the primaries, and then you get down to debate 1, debate 2, debate 3, all these little October surprises. Walk us through the timeline a little bit of when you made. How early on did you switch from Rand Paul? How long did it take?
I wrote a story about it, and it's probably around January or February would have been the time. That's kind of when they held Rand Paul out of the debates. They kind of felt like they really screwed him there in Iowa. He should have been in the debate. They reduced the number, and then they kind of took him out at the last minute based on their bogus polls. And it looked like the fix was in, and that was kind of seemed like the beginning of the end for Rand. But it was also kind of the beginning of Trump was saying a lot of good things, and then he just kept saying it just kept getting better and better until it seemed fairly apparent that he was definitely the guy. I would, of course, like him to be, more principled libertarian, be a little bit, maybe less, maybe the potential of an authoritarian. I do kind of, he's not ideal, obviously, but I think he's a good guy. He's a real American guy who cares about this country and isn't coming after us. I don't believe, or wants to abuse his authority by any means. But of course, after being a Ron Paul guy, and it's different circumstances. As I said, he's not ideal, but
he's got a couple. He has a couple of things going.
Right.
He has a couple of things going for him, and we got to keep him honest on a whole heck of a lot of other stuff. Definitely not a fan of his Edward Snowden stance and seeing some of the people he's putting into cabinet positions and at least throwing the names around. Continuing the war on marijuana, and you just go, "Oh, come on! Is this another Bush reboot?" You see names like Giuliani, and anyway, we'll get to the cabinet and everything.
I'm not
in
sure.
A minute.
Exactly, and I'm not sure exactly who he's all named or what his stances are on some of those issues. Like I said, it's not ideal, but he was the solution to the oligarchy, the globalism, and I've said it years ago that I thought that if necessary, I know I said, I don't know how I dig it up, but that Donald Trump could be a good sort of transition president to kind of, turn things around and then maybe pave the way for more, the Rand Paul types. And,
Interesting.
I don't know if I had anything to do with it, but it ended up happening.
It was,
He's floated out the idea of being president for a long time, and of course, he's always kind of been in the public eye. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah. He's been hinting at this since what was that, the '80s, and that Oprah clip. Well, okay. So you made the move around January, blah blah blah. It comes down to Hillary now. And we're kind of putting a bow and a ribbon on this. So this is a little bit of a retrospective, Blake, and I hope you understand that's kind of where the focus is going to be with this. Okay, so that's how it whittled down to Trump. It came down to Trump and Cruz, and if you wanted to comment on that, that's fine. But I kind of wanted to bounce over to Hillary. You and I went and covered the RNC in Cleveland, and then you continued on to Philadelphia and covered that. And that was right when the Debbie Wasserman Schultz emails were coming out, and you could see that the favoritism, that the dirty tricks, that the games, the manipulation of the Clinton camp mixed in with the DNC. They did everything they could to sabotage Bernie Sanders, and he was the guy that actually had the energy and momentum behind him in this campaign. And they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. Maybe expand on that for a little bit. Just the process with the super delegates, and what your takeaway was watching Hillary wrestle with Bernie, because there really was no other competition. It really was those two from the beginning. A couple other clowns that weren't even drawing 1%, but it was those two from the beginning. What are your thoughts on that?
firsthand, all the people that were not exactly happy by the result. It was everything they had fought for, the enthusiasm to fight the establishment, and they were totally screwed by the establishment. And then he just sort of he didn't really fight it. The people were, they didn't want to be upset at him, but they were very dismayed, and they weren't exactly on board with his endorsement of his surprise endorsement of Hillary Clinton. And
yeah. Right around the same time he bought a $600,000 home.
Right. I mean, yeah, it's just in your face, and it's who knows. It's sad to see that, but yeah, I don't think I really respect the Bernie people. I think they're good people, but Bernie was not a good candidate. No offense, but I understand where they're coming from, and I like the anti-establishment, the grassroots thing. That was great, and I think a lot of them got on board, even jumped on the Trump train to get rid of Clinton. They saw the danger there, and if they did, I thank them for it. I think there are people that are reasonable and we could work with to some extent. They just have to maybe reinvent themselves. I think the entire Democratic Party, but I don't know if going left and going into socialism or this extreme progressivism and Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren sort of philosophy is the right direction. But we'll see what happens, because the whole party's melted. As you said, it began to melt down as soon as the DNC started. Debbie Wasserman Schultz resigned, then along with some of her top staffers, and they're still under fire. And right now, with Nancy Pelosi, Donna Brazile under attack and under pressure, and then you got the establishment trying to hold on, and from the new voices that are rising, but I don't know if they're the right new voices. I don't really know. They have to do a lot of soul searching over the next couple of years and come up with a new identity, because they're in a lot of trouble, and they know it.
Yeah, and just watching the whole process unfold and watching, it was funny because it was the secrecy. Watergate wasn't about Watergate as much as it was about the cover-up. And it was just through everything that was happening and all of these denials, when it was super clear that shady tricks were going on, that shenanigans were occurring. It didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this was very rigged, that this was... with every denial, you just looked at her and went, I don't believe a single thing that's coming out of your damn mouth. Not a single... I mean, I swear, Blake, every time she opened her... And look, I know enough about her. I was never voting for her. I'm against the ruling families. I'm against the oligarchs. No more Clinton, no more Bush. I'm done with that. So I was never going to pull for her anyway, I'll be honest. But... I saw an evolution of the lack of credibility, the lack of trustworthiness, the lack of moral compass, and I don't know. The layers really got peeled off for me, opening the curtain on The Wizard of Oz with Hillary. How important would you say, or how damaging would you say that the Debbie Wasserman Schultz leaks were at the DNC? Do you think that was a very significant hit that pulled off a couple of percentage of Bernie voters that she could never get back because she played it wrong? She didn't pick Bernie as a VP when she could have. She really just... What do you make of that? How damaging were those emails?
I don't know. At first, Debbie Wasserman Schultz was, under pressure anyway. I don't think that was a lot of people wanted her to resign, step down already. So I think it just confirmed what they already knew anyway. I don't know if that they already knew it was. The establishment was screwing them, and they were, as I said, they were upset that, Bernie turned around and kind of, endorsed Hillary, and that was a surprise move, and that part was just very strange. So
well,
I felt bad for them, right?
Blake, he didn't want to wake up dead,
That could be part of it. When I went, I did a lot of man on the street. We talked to a lot of people, and most of the people that we talked to and asked, what do you think happened? A lot of them did think that he was either bribed or threatened. So some people might say that's outrageous, but these are the Clintons we're talking about, and there were some nasty people. I wouldn't put it past them, and I'm just glad that she lost, because that could have been disastrous.
Yeah,
And you had Seth Rich, who also died right around that time. You had, and I forget the other guy's name that served the papers at DNC.
Stick with Seth Rich. Rewind a second. Explain who that was.
He was a DNC staffer who allegedly leaked the emails to WikiLeaks that were the damaging ones that kind of imploded the Democratic Party to a great extent. And Julian Assange did, basically not directly say that, but kind of indirectly hinted that could have been the source of the attacks, and he died mysteriously. Shot in the street without. They said it was a robbery, but nothing was stolen. So, yeah, it seemed like there would, if someone was going to leak, there would only be a few people that would have access, and I'm sure if they narrowed it down and wanted to send a message, and yeah, he died, and that story kind of disappeared, and you see the power of this that's why it's dangerous to have somebody like Clinton, because you can't, if they were responsible and they got the mainstream media in their pocket, they never found out who did it, so then they just try to bury the story, and you've seen them basically get away with that. The guy got murdered, and we don't know still who did it, but we could probably point towards the Clintons, but there's, the DNC machine. But, how do you go after somebody that powerful and dig in? And then there were other mysterious deaths, and I forget the people's names offhand, but
no sweat. But I got to pause right there and say, we should be concerned about the Clintons, but let's not forget. Trump is calling for the for the hanging of, for the death for treason of Edward Snowden. This is a guy.
I think we had this discussion before, but it might have been a long time ago that he said it.
He said it multiple times, and I've seen and forgive me, I got to kind of bone up on some of these cabinet positions. Yeah, I got to bone up on some of these cabinet positions, but I think it was either Jeff Sessions or somebody else who was saying almost the same thing about Edward Snowden. So, I find it very confusing and convenient that Julian Assange can be a Donald Trump hero, but Edward Snowden is a traitor.
Right, but Brian, he hasn't made this statement recently that I'm aware of. If Donald Trump doubled down, like a week ago, and said, "Yeah, you know what? I still knowing what I know now, I still think Snowden's a traitor and we should hang him," then I would reevaluate my opinion. But I think that's, from a while ago, and I'm not sure if he's had a chance to, say,
Well, then I'll say this: if somebody out there gets a chance to ask him the question before we do, if you haven't heard us ask him the question, please ask him first. Everybody. I mean, it's great to see. We're somewhere around 1.1 million views on our channel over the past 5.5 years, and it's nice. And you got to think about, we have a listening audience, and it's crazy to think about. I just do the show because I feel like I have to, because I like to talk about the important things. And when I'm kind of saying, hey, if you get a chance to ask Donald this question, I'm sorry, President-elect Trump, if you get to ask him, go for it. Get to an event and grab the microphone. I mean, that is the new American media. We can't wait for Donna Brazile. We're not going to wait for George Stephanopoulos. They're DNC operatives.
Right, but let's just wait till he gets into office before, he's already going to be in anyway. Let's get him in, and then we can go after that opinion. Because maybe he doesn't want to say it because it would offend some of the, the right-wing people that voted for him. So he's trying to stay away from that subject. So I can't, hold him accountable yet off of an old statement that he made before he was even in the running, as far as I know. I don't know if he would actually had thrown his hat in the ring yet, or if that was at the first debate. I can't quite remember. But, there are a lot of people that are close to him that don't feel that way, that, that would agree with you, Brian. So I think that if Donald Trump listens to reason, that he might be persuaded. Again, like I said, the only thing I saw was an outdated thing from October of 2015, if I recall off the top of my head, was the last time I think that he made a statement on Edward Snowden, and it was something like that, or he's a traitor, blah blah blah.
Yeah,
well, it might have been with less information. I don't know how informed his opinion was.
Yeah, well, point being, let's ask him again, see if we can get some clarity on that. But that was just the point I was making, though. Julian Assange is a hero because it hurts Hillary, but Edward Snowden may not be. And it's an important distinction and something that we have to make sure. Because I told a lot of people, I'm not voting for a ruler. I don't want a president to run my life. I want people to stay out of my hair. Like I don't want big, sweeping, stupid changes that negatively impact me the way that Obamacare did. I'm good. I was just electing somebody that I'm going to get to keep an eye on over the next 4 years and go after if necessary. I don't want a ruler. I don't want a leader. I don't want a Führer. I don't want some king to follow. I think we're capable of handling most of these things ourselves. The geopolitics is another story. But anyhow, back to Hillary and Seth Rich and WikiLeaks and all of that. I kind of asked you about the Debbie Wasserman Schultz email leak. How brutal do you think that the WikiLeaks turned out to be, coming so close the last couple of weeks right before the election? How much of an impact do you think that had?
I guess we'll never know, but I'm sure it maybe persuaded some extra people to stay at home, or maybe vote for a third party, maybe vote for Trump. I don't know. But I'm sure, at that level, just a small percentage can really swing things. So,
I think you nailed it,
that
though.
constant drip, and it just, if you're a Democrat, it's hard to, deal with that on a daily basis. Like, you got to sit there and play defense every day. You don't even want to go on social media because everyone's going to be talking about the new. Oh, have you seen the new WikiLeaks? And then you got to go, oh, it's not a big deal because, blah, 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 or whatever. I mean, it's just, it's got to get tiring to deal with that. And there's nothing that enthusiastic about Hillary anyway. But yeah, that just continues to be demoralizing. Now, I'm disappointed that there wasn't the huge bombshells that we thought there was going to be, because that was kind of what they were teasing, like, oh, we're going to send some stuff out that's going to, basically end the election. She's going to have to suspend her campaign and go to jail and blah, blah, blah. And then even up to the last, day, the Monday before the election, it was just like, oh, there's another day of Podesta emails. And then there was the weird stuff with the, the spirit cooking and stuff. But it was so bizarre, it was hard to really, think that was it. It wasn't like the big smoking gun of Benghazi or anything like that. I was hoping for one of those bombshells, but it didn't transpire. But yeah, at least the election had the a favorable result, so I'll take it.
Well, going into the election then, as did your opinion of the likelihood of a Trump presidency change from the first debate to the second to the third to election night? Did you always maintain kind of the same level or percentage likelihood in your head, or did that fluctuate pretty wildly depending on, once the nominees were picked on both sides of the conventions?
Yeah, I don't think anything swayed my opinion at that point. I mean, I was just hoping Trump would take her apart in the debates, and he kind of was nice in the first one, and then he took the gloves off in the last two, and really confirmed why a lot of people thought he was the right guy for the job.
Yeah, I still think he took it really easy, and I don't know. I had felt as though Donald Trump was going to win in a landslide, and I know that was a silly thing to say, and maybe it's akin to when people ask me, "Hey, so how do you think the Cleveland Browns are going to do this year?" I go, "Undefeated, Super Bowl champion. That's what's going to happen. Why not? It's got to happen to somebody, right? I think we could catch magic in a bottle this year. Why not?" I say that, and I hope for that, but, I mean, am I going to put money on that? No. But in my heart of hearts, I really felt as though that a Donald Trump presidency, especially with Hillary being the opponent, I really felt like this could be a blowout. And, when it comes down to the states and you look at the percentage of our country, I think it's interesting to look at, the red and blue map by counties, Blake. It's really interesting to see how much of this country is behind and picked, at least maybe they're not behind him, but they selected Donald Trump over Hillary. And in the cities where the population density is through the roof, all Democrat. I mean, what do you make of the demographics of our country? And I know I'm jumping ahead because I wanted to ask you a few more, but since we're on it, what do you make of the Electoral College? Are you happy with the system? Because we heard this with Bush Gore, and hey, it should be a popular vote, this, that, and the other. And then you look at the map and go, well, I guess this is probably why. What are your thoughts on the Electoral College and specifically how it played out in this election?
Yeah, I mean, if you would ask me before the election, I probably, I don't know what to say because I don't have a strong preference either way on that. But you did see, exactly as you said, when you look at the county map, the importance of the Electoral College. And so I guess in that regard, I can respect that. And yeah, I mean, I still question the popular vote anyway, but regardless, you see exactly what you just pointed out is that, all these dense, large cities are, can really skew the vote. And when you look at the rest of the country, yeah, it was all red in this case, and yes, and all the concentrations for the Hillary support were L.A. and San Fran and Chicago and New York and Philadelphia and and so yeah, I guess that's why the forefathers were smarter than us, I guess, and that's why they did that, even not knowing what the country would be like. But yes, it does play a purpose, and that's all I can say. But even though there's people talking about doing an audit, and they're crying about that she won the popular vote, but then yeah, you look at the map and you can flip that around and say 90% of all of the counties in this country voted or supported Donald Trump, and that is obvious. That's huge. So, and that's everything. So you're basically saying, you're going to have 10% these concentrations in the city that are going to rule everybody else, and they're not really, in tune as much. So it doesn't count, but
Well, they're in tune to the instrument that's important to them. I mean, I'm living in a big city right now, and I mean, everybody's going to vote their best interest, but I mean, one of the things that's interesting is finally, for the first time in a long time, you saw somebody on the right, somebody with an R by their name, going into cities and saying, "Hey guys, these politicians are playing you for fools. You know, they're trying to stir up racial animosity. Do you know how few people care about race? You know, I mean, Trump was going into these cities. I actually asked somebody, and I said, what's so racist about what Trump has said? And it was interesting trying to decipher the answers that were coming back. And you know, I mean we've heard some of the dumb things that where he kind of put his foot in his mouth, and other times where you just laugh at and go, really, that this is offensive to you? I don't care if it is. I don't know. It's just it's interesting to think about. And were you confident going into election night that Trump had this, or were you just a nervous wreck? Let me ask you that, because I know I skipped ahead here. I got to come back.
No worries. You know, I think we talked about it before. I thought it was going to be an absolute landslide, but I was concerned that there would be massive voter fraud, that the establishment was going to pull out every stop, every dirty trick, do whatever it took to sway that election, and that could be a major factor. And it probably was, but even the top of the vote fraud experts will agree that you cannot stop a landslide, and that is what happened. And then you see, you know, the result. So I don't know. So I think it would be far worse. I know there's a movement going on there to audit the vote and go through that, but then other people are saying, you know, yeah, you know, go for it, do it. Why don't you go audit the votes, and you'll see just how many like illegal aliens or dead people voted, and there's probably going to, you know, go or the computer fraud type of stuff. Those kind of shenanigans of the vote flipping.
Well, don't forget too, and the provisional ballots and the military ballots. You know, there's a lot of votes that you know over here in California, and I guess every election you probably hear it. You know, it's still too close to call. We're 2 weeks out of this damn thing, and they're still counting votes. They got to do it by hand, and it's this long process. And you're going, wow, no wonder Bush Gore took so long. But I do have to agree with you. I was worried about some voter fraud. But when you looked at the rallies, I mean, 20,000 to Trump, and then you got 200 for Hillary. You can't hide that. And when you're busted doing it, I mean, how many times, Blake, did you see where the photographer would snap a picture, and then they'd crop it to make it look like the place is jam-packed, and then somebody took a picture of the entire event and did a side-by-side, and it's in a completely empty arena, a completely empty airplane hangar, a completely empty factory. You know, you have 1,000 people in this place, and nobody showed up. Nobody cared. There was no energy on that side. You know, that was interesting to me too, because every time the old guard Democrats or Republicans, or the media for that matter, when they were really trying everything they could to give Hillary a free pass and ignore stuff and to pump her up, and all that did was justify that those people cannot be trusted. That's all it did. It did not help. Every time, I think every time those things were happening, it actually swung the pendulum the opposite direction. I think everything that she had tried, you know what? I bet you if she had done this in the 70s or 80s, maybe the 90s, maybe the 2000s, I feel like she could have been president before the internet. I just, you can't hide from the lies. And Blake, she didn't even go to Wisconsin, did she? Isn't that's my understanding. I mean, she really did not have the stamina for this job, and Trump was all over the place. Oh, he's tweeting at 3 a.m. Yeah, he's up at 3 a.m. He's not sleeping when Ambassador Stevens is getting killed over in Benghazi. Like, yeah, I'd like a president that busts his ass and he's all over the place and he's up at 3 a.m. in the morning. I mean, Hillary, it really was like Weekend at Bernie's. It was like they were propping her up and just walking her around, smile and wave. Here, I'll hold your hand, Madam President.
Right.
It was pretty incredible what they were trying to get across the finish line. And, you know, I'd say fortunately the American people weren't buying it. What's some of the best reactions that you've found from the flip side? You know, I mean, there's two ways to do this. You know, we can obviously, and I think in my intro I was getting along on the point that he's Donald Trump is now the captain of this airline. I don't want him to crash. I'm currently on this plane. That's ridiculous. Why would I want it to crash? I want to be observant. I want to pay attention. I am like a hawk and criticize policy when it's necessary, but I'm not going to root for him to fail. So there's that diplomatic way to react to the election. But I got to tell you, it was so gratifying and satisfying to see, to listen to see Hillary Clinton going away. And the concession speech, and then the staged walk in the park with the dog, but it was a former staffer, of course. What's some of the best meltdowns you've seen on the other side? Are you trying to be more politically correct about this and not jump around and celebrate? Or are you just loving every second of this, watching everything that the liberal media has been trying to cram down America's throat get so soundly rejected? What kind of tone are you taking so far?
I think I've gone both ways on that. Like, I'd like to be nice, and I'd like to, maybe bring people together and, make this country a better place. But sometimes I need to make an example out of people on, some of the media people on social media, Twitter, what have you. That's usually where I do all my trolling. And so, yeah, sometimes they really get to me. It's one thing. It's funny to just to watch them have their meltdowns, and then sometimes you do have to get involved and smack them around a little bit, because it's amazing, because you can't let them get away with the kind of garbage that they're saying. I mean, sometimes they're just hysterical and they're not even making any sense. And then sometimes they actually, are seriously sound deranged, and they're, spreading these deranged ideas that, half the country is, racist because they elected Donald Trump. And
yes. Did I lose you? Hang on, I think we lost you.
Uh-oh.
Oh, there you go. Okay, you're back. So you're talking about the people that say everybody that voted for Donald Trump is racist. And I actually got into a conversation with with a friend of mine, and I'm not having it. He's willing to play. He's willing to engage in a conversation. And he'll dance within 90% of what I deem acceptable. That's why I say keep it mostly civil. Seek truth, challenge dogma, and have fun. Join the mostly civil conversation. But yeah, it was sharing this article that everybody that voted for Trump has encouraged racism and xenophobia and sexism and all,
misogyny, sexism,
everything you could imagine. I'm like, man, this is the boy calling wolf. This is the boy crying wolf. But I mean, what is your take on that? That's when your line cut out, you're starting to get into everybody calling Trump voters racist and whatnot.
Yeah, sometimes it's funny because watching them have a temper tantrum, and sometimes it's dangerous because you don't want them to, convince other people that their ideas are right, and you got to, step up and smack them down. So you can't let them get away with that. It's a horrible narrative, and you sent me an article on Facebook the other day with Jon Stewart saying this isn't about racism. Like, everybody calm down. Or who was the other guy that Pai, whatever his name is, that a British guy, saying the same thing. Some liberal voices there's some good voices in there. Ironically, Jimmy Dore has been great. I mean, there are some sane, intelligent liberals out there who, and then there's just all these freaks who, I don't want to say freaks, but I mean, they're brainwashed, useful idiots without even knowing it. And they actually, buy into this kind of stuff, and, are making it sound like, half our country's racist or sexist or what have you. And that's, it confirms why, they were voted out, why there was such a huge backlash, and people are sick of that. This awful identity politics, where, we've erased all these decades of progress with the civil rights, or however you view it, and coming together, and then it's like now we have a black president, and now it's worse than ever. And yeah, and so people just said no. And so we're tired of the political correctness. It's killing us, and yeah. So Donald Trump was an easy pick for most people.
Yeah, and the meltdown has been pretty fascinating. Seeing the stories about playing with Play-Doh and therapy dogs and nap time and cuddle sessions, and it's astonishing. It's absolutely astonishing. And look, there's no way that you live in the American Southwest and you don't interact with a lot of great people, and you hear stories, and some people uh, are not in the country legally. Some people have overstayed their visas, this, that, and the other. I really can, Blake. I can understand why some people will go, oh, God, this guy's here, and he's talking about building the wall and deporting, 20 million people? I can understand to a certain degree why people would be upset. I mean, the flip side of it is, if I snuck into a movie theater and the guy comes over with the flashlight and says, you're going to have to leave the theater, come with me, who am I going to be mad at other than myself? Well, you weren't born in the movie theater. Well, my parents didn't have me in a movie theater. What do you want? I just don't understand the outrage over controlling your border and immigration. And this really is where hardcore libertarians, to the point where almost anarchists or agorists or voluntarists. There's a lot of different ists and isms, but I just don't understand the people that have a problem with a wall. Disneyland has a wall. The Vatican has a wall. You have a wall around things. I mean, you have a checkpoint. You don't just go into a Cavalier game. You got to hand them your ticket. You got to get your little wand thing. You're wanded. You go through a thing, and then you go in. You don't just walk in the back door, and if somebody finds you, you're like, oh, well, how dare you? You're a bigot for kicking me out of this basketball game. It's like, I wasn't allowed to be there. So, I mean, what do you make of all of the rhetoric that have been ratcheted up over this campaign over immigration? I mean, you've lived in Vegas, spent time in Arizona. I'm in California. I think there are a lot of great people that are here. For Blake, for me, I draw the line at if they're not causing a problem. Maybe we can find a different solution, a different way to handle this. But I'll tell you what, if there's somebody that sneaks into the theater and they're going to be throwing smoke bombs down the hallway, yeah, I don't let the door hit you. I mean, what do you make of all of the immigration stuff now? Moving forward, November 18th, we're into President-elect Trump's, the countdown clock has started. What do you see in your crystal ball with immigration?
Well, I have no control over it. I have my ideas, and I'm sure Donald Trump and Jeff Sessions are going to have their own ideas, and I respect where they're coming from. I don't like the idea of a wall on principle as human beings in the 21st century, but I understand it's almost like an extreme response to the horrible policies that we've let go on for so long, that I understand the reaction, and to build a wall so people are tired of that, and we can bring some integrity back to our borders, even though it's kind of it's obviously to the extreme. As far as the deportations go, I'd like to keep as many people as all the the good hardworking ones. I'd like to differentiate who's good and who's bad. Obviously, get rid of the bad, and let the good stay. But I mean, they've also have to respect our culture, where we're not just handing these people. They need to be integrated into our culture before we. They're actually being used as like a voting block by the Democrats. It's not some great humanitarian thing, in my opinion. I don't think that's right. But if they're good people and they want to be citizens, and we've got work available, then I'd like to keep as many as possible. I think it's kind of sad to kick them out, but I realize that they didn't come in here the right way.
Yeah, see, I could see some sort of guest worker thing. I could see if somebody wanted to make something out of themselves and they really want to just work really hard and provide a better future for the family. I understand it. I totally understand it. You know, just like I totally understand someone that really wants to see Star Wars but doesn't want to buy a ticket. That's cool, but you can't. Sorry. I mean, I see both sides on it. You know, we got to. Okay, Blake. For me, the wall is a must. This can't be a virtual wall. There's nothing complicated about a wall. When you bring up and talk about well, I guess you're against the wall. You don't really advocate for it, but I do, and no. I love people will come. You don't think they're going to dig under a wall? You don't think they're going to dig under a wall? I go, yeah, those 6 people will be caught. And it will stop millions. They're just going to dig under a wall. You know, there are tunnels. There are tunnels all over. Yep. I still want to build a wall and put a bouncer at the door who checks IDs. I'm pretty much asking for the policy of every bar in America. It's not a lot to ask. I have no animosity toward anybody. If you're cool to me, I'm going to be cool to you. I don't care what you look like. I don't care what is underneath your underpants. I don't care what the pigment of your skin is or what flying spaghetti monster you worship at night. I don't care. If you're cool to me, I'm going to be cool back. And when you're talking about a border, when you're talking about the security of your nation, what in the world is wrong with saying I would like to put a bouncer there to check IDs? Look, I've been a bartender for a long time. So have you, Blake. I mean, checking IDs is one of the most important components of the job. You have to be responsible if you're going to continue the job. Our government, I really don't want this government doing a lot of things for me, but I do want them to kind of be the bouncer. I want them to be the muscle and keep the riffraff out so they don't mess it up for everybody else. You know, and no, not everybody trying to come in or that already snuck in. They're not all riffraff. They're not all bad people by any stretch. So, I mean, we have to figure this thing out. But if you want to stop your boat from sinking, plug the hole up. Stop allowing more water to get into the hull of your boat because it's slowly dragging you down. If we're bringing in the best and the brightest, the most talented, the most educated people that are starting companies, they're working in high tech, in high industry, super rare, super brilliant people that are just the cream of the crop in the entire world, and they're just creating so much for everyone. That's one thing. You know, you have to run the country like a company. And how do you do that? You hire the right people. I'm telling you, you know, if we're in a system where Obamacare is supposed to be providing health care to everyone, and we know that's not really the case, but we have the right to refuse service to anybody. No shirt, no shoes, no service. Yes, I understand it's give us you're tired, you're weak, you're huddled masses, yearning to breathe. I get it. But saying, this is our country, and we want people that are not going to likely end up on welfare to come here. People that already speak the language and share the cultural values. People who worship in their own way, and the way that they do it, they're not going to bother people next to them. You know, you talk about the Syrian refugee crisis. Come on. Some of these people would make the worst neighbors imaginable. We don't want people like that are going to be bad neighbors in. That doesn't mean we hate Islam. It doesn't mean we hate people that practice that faith. It just means there are quite a few people in warfare in that region of the world, and they don't appreciate anything about this country. Screening for that, I'm sorry, that's not xenophobic. That's common sense. So, you know, I think some of the backlash and some of the strong numbers that came in for Trump, I really think a lot of it was a repudiation of just constantly being told that if you have some of these beliefs, there's something wrong with you. You're lesser. You're a racist. You're a bigot. You're a xenophobe. You're a misogynist. All this stuff. I really think that this election of Donald Trump was a repudiation of really the culmination of hearing that for about 2 decades straight. I think the American people know that we're good people, and we just want to make sure only good people are coming in here. And that doesn't make us a bad person. What do you think?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I'm not totally sold on the wall. Like I said, I don't think it's necessary, but as you say, it's a repudiation, and it's like I said, it also said it's an extreme response. So the people are upset about the lax border control and the fact that they don't care about it, and it's just basically an open joke, and it is hurting us, and it is hurting our economy. Mostly we won. So, the people said, hey, well, you know what? F it. We're just going to build a wall. Be done with it. So I don't think it's going to necessarily work. And I think it's going to be torn down someday. But,
Mr. Ramirez, tear down that wall.
No, it'd be like some sophisticated alien race, like, looking down on us. Like, really? You're building giant walls to, is the 21st century? And
see, I just don't see anything wrong with the wall, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree on that point. Have you been following all of the people that are going through the process now? You're seeing a lot of names get floated for different positions. Are you really up to snuff on all of the people that are settling into these positions? And where are you at with following that process? Are you all there, or are you just kind of wait and see?
Yeah, I mean, enough. I've seen some of it. I mean, obviously the big name today was Jeff Sessions, and then of course for Attorney General, we've got Stephen Bannon from Breitbart as the what is he, the chief advisor? I forget what is the exact title of the role. And then we've had Reince Priebus.
Let me ask you about
the staff.
Yeah. Okay, so we got Priebus, but okay, so
Flynn. That's the other one. The other ones are rumors, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you got Giuliani floating around. You got Cruz floating around. You got Mitt Romney. But what is your take on Steve Bannon? He's become the new whipping boy, and he's just become the new whipping boy. What's your take on him?
I don't know the guy, but I have listened to both sides present their arguments, and the liberals have nothing to stand on. And I mean, like MoveOn.org is got this huge petition going, and I watched people people that I know on Facebook throwing this petition out there and getting people to sign it, and it was like, and I called it out, and I said, why? And I'm looking at all these this outrage, and I'm not seeing anything. It is all really weak stuff, and you're branding this guy as this major anti-Semite, and maybe he made some offhand remarks to his wife according to his ex-wife 10 years ago or something, and that's like a big deal when he's hires when he works closely with Jewish people like Joel Pollak or Milo, who think the world of him and think he's a good guy. I mean, it's baseless and it's stupid, and they're going after all of these guys right now. The left just is freaking out, and they're just really digging themselves into a bigger hole, because they're not even making any sense and just rationally looking at this. I mean, they're grasping at straws. They're demonizing this guy, and it could be that they're terrified of him. I mean, this guy sounds like he's the real deal. He really knows his stuff. He's a high-level guy, and he's fearless, and he knows who to go after. And and they're scared of him in an advisory role to Trump. I think they can make it a phenomenal team. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do. And
yeah, I don't know enough about him. I found it very interesting to kind of look into Steve Bannon. And you realize he was one of the early people to finance Seinfeld? Did you stumble across that interesting tidbit?
I saw something that he had something to do with it, and rumored that he was still getting residuals from it. I don't know.
Could you imagine you're getting residuals from Seinfeld? I can imagine it.
Even
I imagine
anything.
it.
Even any kind of residuals got to add up pretty quick.
Yeah, it's pretty much pretty much playing on one channel or another 24 hours a day, multiple times, regardless of where you're at. He's an interesting character. I gotta be honest, I am familiar with Breitbart. I'm familiar with Breitbart's boast of having something that it was going to take down President Obama, and then he died of a heart attack, and it was a little mysterious. And I'm familiar with that.
Little.
I'm familiar with Milo. I'm familiar with, obviously Joel Pollack, who we were at the RNC. You guys should go check out the video. We caught an altercation between Joel Pollack of Breitbart with some of the. Did we ever identify who that guy was with the Daily Show? Whoever that producer was? I don't know if anybody ever commented.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
He wasn't a name that people were familiar with. I think he was just like an amateur comedian and a staffer. He wasn't like.
Okay. Well,
kind of a big
yeah,
name or
you
anything.
could go check out the show or check out that episode. It's from the RNC. Just scroll back a few months when we were out there. But so I'm familiar with Breitbart, but I got to say I'm not very familiar with Steve Bannon. So, the jury's out for me on that one. What about Jeff Sessions for Attorney General? Wait, hold on. That's an actual confirmed done deal. That's who they've put up there, and that's who they want, right? That is a legit. They've selected him, but what is it? The Senate has to confirm that. Am I remembering that correctly?
I believe so. I believe once he, I don't know what part of the process that is or when that takes place, but yeah, they'll have to vote on some of these guys. I don't know if it's all of them or some of them. I forget exactly which one.
Well, I'll tell you what. This will be good for us. This is the homework we have to brush up on. I mean, we're not political junkie aficionados as far as procedures and rules and protocol necessarily, but all right. What do you make of Flynn? What do you make of him?
Okay, well, Sessions, I think he's a good guy. They're trying
back to Sessions.
brandish him with some racial stuff. Again, it's pretty circumstantial, old news kind of stuff, and he's done other things that.
Hang on, we lost you again. You still there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, you're back. Okay. Some circumstantial stuff, and what else?
Oh, I was going to say that they make a good argument against that by saying he, went after the leader of the KKK, got on the death penalty, desegregated schools. So it's hard to, brand him as a racist, but of course that's all the left can do at this point. They're kind of, I guess, scared of this guy.
Yeah, scared of this guy. Your phone cut out again. You said yeah, all right, you're back. You said they're scared of this guy. All right, Blake, are we losing you? Hang on, I'll tell you what. Let's just try to reestablish the connection, shall we? That might be a little easier. I think it'll be a lot easier, actually.
There we go.
All right, so said about being scared of this guy.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. He's, no nonsense guy. He's a pretty interesting patriot. He's a little bit old school, but he's a respectable guy. He was a front runner for the VP, and he's definitely going to be on the same page as far as, the immigration issue with Donald Trump. So, no surprise there, but it's good, because you start hearing, names like, Giuliani or Chris Christie, you get a little worried for a big position. I think we're, hoping for a guy like Trey Gowdy. I thought he would be up there and he would be a great attorney general, but, I think it's a good pick. So in some ways, I mean, he's obviously not, the most ideal, I could nitpick, but I'm so happy to have a real American with some integrity rather than these just crazy radicals that they've had in, with Eric Holder and Loretta Lynch. So they've been pretty scary, almost criminal, I think, and their complicity with, getting the Clintons and the Obamas out of serious legal trouble. And so I'm happy to see Jeff in there. General Flynn also was a good, one of the top VP guys. Somebody who's, I think, is actually kind of liberal from what I've heard. Also seems like a very good guy, a good patriot, and a rational person who's not just some mindless warmonger. So I think that's also a good pick. But I don't know. I mean, I read an article out of the New York Times saying that that Iraqis are a little, not sure what to think about the General Flynn's, and he's made comments about how, it's not, he's under fire for, I guess, being racist towards Muslims, I guess, because he one time he tweeted out a video saying that Muslims can be dangerous, and actually I watched it for the first time just minutes before the show, actually, and it makes some points. I mean, I think you could say that vast majority of Muslims are peaceful people, but they've definitely got a problem with some of these radical elements, and that's kind of what it points out to. And that it does. It's controversial, but I don't consider it that bad. But again, the left is freaking out at all the picks, and they're finding old news, just making these outrageous statements of whether. Again, whether they're racist or they're anti-Semites or sexist, probably. I mean, it's pretty insane.
Let me ask you about this. This just happened today. Here's a quote, spokesperson for the Trump Organization. The quote is, "We are pleased to announce the complete resolution of all litigation involving Trump University. While we have no doubt that Trump University would have prevailed at trial, based on the merits of this case, resolution of these matters allows President-elect Trump to devote his full attention to the important issues facing our great nation." What's your take on that breaking news from today?
It looks like that was kind of a shady thing. I'm not going to say it was an outright scam or anything, but it doesn't seem like it was, a great product and that it delivered the way it was, he said it was. So it definitely had problems, and it was going to be a major distraction, and he made a settlement. I don't know necessarily enough about it to say whether he could have gotten away with it or not, but just from what I've seen, it seems like it would be, damaging enough, and he did shell out a lot of money, and at least it's, at least he made good on it, I guess, whatever, and we can all move on because it won't be lingering around. The case is over. It's not going to drag on through his campaign. We'll get the story done with and move on.
Yeah, I would say it's a pretty brilliant move to just get this behind. Just set this up on the shelf. Call it a day. This is done. Wrap a bow on it. Put it away till next Christmas. Yeah, to have something like that hanging over, that would be difficult, and I think it would be a horrible decision. Who knows? Maybe he could have won though, and he's famously, talked about not settling, and it's that kind of mentality of always winning. I prefer, was it soldiers? I prefer soldiers that don't get caught. What was it? I prefer military. I forget exactly how he phrased the McCain
yeah, it's McCain or whatever. People that don't get captured.
Yeah, I prefer people that don't get captured or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting. Trump says he doesn't settle, and he definitely settled. So I don't know. I was once pitched a product for ACN, and it was Donald Trump. This was like 10 years ago. So I always remember like trying to pitch this pyramid thing at me, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. So, look, we put Ronald Reagan in the White House, a Hollywood actor. Let's see what this guy can do. Let's just see. Let's just keep him honest, though. Like if it's a train wreck, we need to be willing to call it a train wreck. Hopefully, it's the best thing we've ever seen, and I don't know if I would be surprised necessarily, because I do think it is possible. But man, would I be happy? I'd be really happy to see that things are going that well. So, who knows where we go from here? Who do you, as we start wrapping this up, Blake, who do you think Secretary of State, if you had to guess, you get $1 if you get it right. Pick a name out of a hat. Who would you say, XYZ, this person is going to be Secretary of State? In your heart of hearts, who do you think?
I don't know who the front runners are on that. I think maybe it could have been a position for Flynn, but I guess he's going to be an advisor. I don't like Romney pick at all. I'll be very upset. That doesn't really make any sense. I think that's just BS. But so I really can't answer that because I don't know. I'd have to look at the short list, and I could take a name and tell you who I'd like.
Right.
But I honestly have no idea who to even pick because I don't know who's up for the position.
Yeah, that's fair. And
what about you?
Well, I found it interesting drawing the parallel, and I've, I noticed this right away when Geez, hang on a second. Hillary Clinton, John Kerry, Barack Obama. It was probably around John Kerry. Maybe it was Hillary. It was Hillary some, and then it was definitely 10 times as much when John Kerry got selected. And you go, oh, the only people that can do Secretary of State are one of the pre-selected people that it came down to. It was either, red tie or blue tie, Democrat, Republican. But we've pre-selected this person, and if they lose, or however the case works out, they can become Secretary of State. So Mitt Romney came down to him, so he probably knows all the secrets. I know that he does. He knows all of the... you start getting daily intelligence briefings, and I think it changes a person. Yeah, I know that it does. It has to. I would have loved to be there when Barack Obama told Donald Trump about the aliens. That's got to be the best part of this job, having that conversation. Man, that would be fun. And yes, I do think that is a thing that happens. We can talk about that later. But, yeah, I don't know, Blake. The whole system to me is interesting. If it ended up being Romney, I wouldn't be surprised. Do I think he's a great choice? Like I said, he started getting those intelligence briefings. That counts for something. I don't know how much. Let's just see how it plays out. I really don't know the timeline of when we're going to be getting more of these selections. I guess they're probably just going to keep trickling in, and we'll just follow them as we do. But
I have a hard time believing that it'd be Romney, but I don't want. Yeah, I really would be surprised. I don't know if he's that high level. I think he's already got everything going for him. He's a rich guy in Utah. Why is he gonna be the Secretary of State? And what does he really know? And what is his real experience there? I don't. I think it's just a terrible choice, and I really, really hope it's just rumor.
Well, let's wrap this up for this evening, Blake. But I mean, once again, look into your crystal ball. The Dow Jones is up really high. It seems like Wall Street is digging this. Do you think that Yellen or Obama would pull the curtain out, pull the rug out from underneath them on the way out the door, the same way, kind of happened toward the end of the Bush administration, and he handed it off to Obama? Obama's like, you got to be kidding me, man. But then he went and did the same policies Bush was doing, so I cut him no slack. I said, you guys are all doing this wrong, but in your crystal ball, what do you think is going to happen between now and the end of the year? As far as Obama stuff going out the door, do you think that they're going to crash this economy, or you think we might be in for some really good stuff?
It's probably on the table. The problem is they don't have a lot of credibility anymore. The mainstream media is on life support, and it's going to be very hard to sell something like that, especially as things have gone to the we didn't discuss the alt-right, the sort of InfoWars, Breitbart.
We'll talk about the alt-right. Talk about that. I mean, I'm in no hurry. I mean, that is a huge component of this story, is the death of media and the rise of alternative media, or alt-right media, whatever people want to call it, the alt-left.
Right. Well, they're trying to make that into a dirty word, and they're really going after Steve Bannon for that as well, by saying that it's this white nationalist movement, when they're you could argue. One of the guys that we actually interviewed in Cleveland at the Gays for Trump thing with Milo Yiannopoulos,
Wait, are you still there? Who do we interview?
Oh, sorry. I don't know why it keeps cutting out.
I don't know.
I'm here in Minnesota, and we just had a major blizzard, so maybe my Wi-Fi is goofy.
You got snow, man. All right, cool. Okay, so what were you starting to say about Milo, a guy that we interviewed? That's where we're at.
Okay, a guy that we interviewed in... Did I mention Richard Spencer?
No,
okay,
go ahead.
Okay, well...
Yes. I had you at Spencer, and then that was pretty much the last I heard. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Okay, hang on. You were gone. All I heard was Spencer. Can we try this one more time? Here, I'm gonna reconnect. All right, we'll try this one. Poor or very bad. How would I rate the quality of this call? It had several problems. Very bad. The call was impossible. Let's see. I could not hear. The sound could echo in the noise in the call. Volume was low. Speech was not natural. We kept interrupting each other. Please specify. Let's just say the other. I could not hear any sound for portions of it. Okay. Let's call him back.
Hello.
All right. So, Spencer Ware. You were talking about the running back for the Chiefs.
Yes. So when we were at the Gates for Trump rally, we
Really? Blake, you are fading, man. All I heard was the Gays for Trump rally. This is getting weird, man. All right, try it again. Last time, you're at the Gays for Trump rally, and then what happens? I know, this has got to be infuriating.
Damn it. All right, anyway, so we talked to a guy named... Okay. His name was Richard Spencer, but we didn't know who he was at the time. Did that go through?
Yeah, I got you there.
Okay. Anyway, he's the guy who coined the term alt-right. And
who was he? Who's he with? Remind me again. Oh, man, this audio. You gotta be kidding me. Okay, he coined the term alt-right. Richard Spencer. Blake, you still there, man? This is so frustrating. But it's alright. We're getting ready to wrap up. Anyhow, yo. You ready to wrap this up? Yo. Or maybe it's a blizzard on his side. Maybe there's nothing you can do. I want to hear the end of that doggone story. Fun stuff. Well, thanks for checking out the show today, guys. We appreciate it. We really appreciate it. Yeah, Skype is not going to cooperate. Anyway, check that out. Apparently, we interviewed Richard Spencer, who coined the term alt-right. I would say I was unaware of that, but I do know he did mention that before. All right, I think we have Blake back. Try it again. You were talking about Richard Spencer, coined the term alt-right. I think that's where we were. And what did he have to say when we talked to him? I know he's one of like 3 or 4 different people, I think, but if you could refresh me.
Yes, and I actually ended up editing out the part where he does introduce himself and he gives out his site. And it was...
So you cut that part out. Oh my gosh. Blake, I think it's the snowstorm, buddy. We're just, it is impossible. You disappear in the call. Well, it was going very well up until the end, so sorry. Just go back. Check out the people that we interviewed over there. All right. Is that too much to ask? I don't think so. I don't think it is at all. Here, let's get some of this wonderful outro music here. So it is what it is. Wonderful technical glitches and problems once again. It's one of the most beautiful ways to end a show. Maybe it's a little anticlimactic, but it's real. This is the struggle. The struggle is real, everybody. That is what the new American media is. You do the best you can with what you got when you have it. That's it. What's the best you can do for the day? Then you go do it. Can it be better? Yeah, sure. But hey, I'm talking to some dude across the country in a blizzard. That's pretty neat. I don't know if you ever studied telepathy or the third eye. Intuition. Remote viewing. Some of these subjects, man, that's some interesting stuff. Where you can have communication with somebody at great distances without an internet cable, without a Wi-Fi, without a router, without a hard drive, without a microphone. I wonder. I also wonder, too, if, you just have to think about this from time to time. Maybe some people don't think about this. I don't know how they wouldn't. But is this a place? And by this, I mean Earth. Is Earth a place where God or gods or angels or aliens? I wonder if this is a place where where those forces, spirits, energies, people, beings, I wonder if they care one way or another. Sometimes you wonder if they're pulling all the puppet strings behind the scenes. And you live a nice, cushy, comfortable, very wealthy life, but you sell your soul in the process. You don't care who you're selling out. You're just making sure you got a nice existence. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. I wonder if things like elections could be swayed. And if there is some sort of higher power, higher being, something, some consciousness, some power that cares one way or another. All I can hope is, if that's true, I hope that they're on our side. I hope that it might be, if not in their best interests, that it would be their preference to see that we do well. I'll take that. Some sort of vested interest. Kind of like us, like I said. Donald Trump is the pilot of this plane. Coming up here in about 2 months, month and a half or so, whatever. Hey, we got vested interest in this thing working. Unlike the Skype connection. So, I will say it for you. Go follow Blake on Twitter. He's at eccentric99. Check out our homepage, TheNewAmericanMedia.com. Link up on Instagram, Instagram.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. On YouTube, subscribe, YouTube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. On Facebook, we're The New American Media. And on Twitter, we're at American_Media_. So, special thank you to Blake Walley out there. For everyone else, I just want to say I appreciate you, I love you, and we'll talk again soon. Take care. Peace.
Hi, everybody. You're listening to Agree to Disagree with Brian Engelman, and this is John B. Wells reminding you that not only is Brian Engelman a cool guy, and not only is TheNewAmericanMedia.com a very cool platform, but here's a cool idea for you, too. Are you alone? Not really. Do you like dogs? Do you like cats? You do. Of course you do. Everybody does. One or the other, maybe even both. There are a lot of dogs and cats that are at shelters right now, and if somebody doesn't take them home, they're going to wind up euthanized. That's a nice way of saying they're going to be killed because there's simply not enough room. I guarantee it, the best dogs and the best cats, the best pets come from shelters. There's something about dogs and cats. They know. They know where they are. You walk through one of them, and certainly at least one is going to look at you and go, I wish you'd take me home. I'm in hell. Please take me out of here. It'll be the best thing that you ever did for your soul. You'll feel good about it. And not only that, but you have a friend for life. Doesn't matter if you got money, you don't have money. Well, it doesn't make any difference to a dog or cat. All they need is the sound of your voice and maybe even the stroke of your hand, and they're fine. Maybe a little food every once in a while. The sweetest sound that those pets ever hear is your voice. Think it over and adopt a cat or a dog from a local shelter today. I'm telling you, you'll be glad you did.